Hello and welcome back to the Demis Hellen channel. We're back with another arpeggio video. This is episode number 2 of series 4. And if you want to get hold of the MIDI that you see in this or any behind the scenes of this video, you can check that out over on Patreon, link in the description. Okay, so here we are in the project. We've got our piano layer, which is where the inspiration came from, literally just playing. That was the inspiration. So the piano part sounds like this. And if you want to get hold of these MIDI parts, you can consider becoming a patron because they get access to the MIDI parts that you're going to see today. You can copy them off screen as a YouTube video, but if you want to download them and physically have them on you for reverse engineering or whatever reason, then you can just head over to Patreon and consider becoming one. You get access to early stuff as well, and you get access to exclusive packs and videos and things there, as well as the community. So with that done, we've got the piano part, that is the influence, so I'm now going to mute that. We've got the pattern here, and we've got the chord structure here. So the first thing that I'm going to do is focus on the chord structure. That makes more sense, and for this one, we are working in A minor, and just for those that have not followed me before on these videos, we're using a scale assistant, so if the note is not in the scale, it will light up orange, keeping us within the scale, and it's easier for me to explain it by showing you on screen. So up on the top left here in Cubase, we have a scale editor, and I've got that set to A natural minor, and that's the key that we're working in. So what we have is an A minor, a G, an F, and an E minor, and then we have a C, a D minor, and an A minor. So that's the structure that we're using, and these are standard triads. So just for those that are new to the series, standard triads are essentially a note in the scale, miss a note in the scale, add a note in the scale. So like this, if we copy this up, we know that the next note, forget the ones that are not in scale, we miss the B, we add the C. We miss the D, and we add an E, and that's our standard triad. And what that'll do is present you with major and minor chords. And just a little tip for you here, if you want to identify them really, really quickly, minor chords have a 2-note gap, and major chords have a 3-note gap in a standard triad. So you can see here we've got minor, major, major, minor, major, minor, minor. So really quickly, it's a good way to identify those chord structures. The pattern, let's go to the pattern. It's over here for a reason because we're going to build that first portion of the melody. You can see that we've gone for a pattern that is just slightly different to what we've done before, which is we're working with a chord instead of a root note. So normally this would be all on C, and it would sound like this, which is absolutely fine. You can do it all that way, but this one starts with a chord. So it starts on the root note, but then the top melody starts on C. And the reason for that is we're starting with the chord. So you can see A and C, A and C. So we're using the first and the third note of our chord. Okay, so jumping into this, we've started with the chord. That's what we've established. So the pattern here, we're just going to build this back over here because this is what we're going to build our pattern on. So 4 bars. Let's zoom this in. So you can see here, we are going to work on C. So we've got 2 16ths, but they are 8th notes essentially, but 16ths long. So if you was to set your quantize here to 8th notes, you can see they're just 16ths long, but they are essentially 8th notes. And then usually that's the pattern we'd follow, but we're going to skip a 16th on the second set of 2. So it creates a 2-note gap. And then we're going to skip another 16th on the after those 2. It's a bit disjointed, so we add that third one in to sort of like wrap it back round. And then I decided to add in the A's, I think here, here, and here. Let's just double check that. So we've got one on the beat there and 1 16th off the beat. So that's on the beat like that. And this is following the same procedure as filling in the gaps that I do normally. So the rest of them we can fill in. Let's just put that back there. And you can see it's easy as pie just doing that. And it gives you that illusion that the bass in the low portion is a rolling 16ths. It's like it's going and that's the beauty of this. You're creating something very simple, but it sounds more complex than what it actually is. So if you're creating something simple and you're trying to make it more complex, take it back a step and do the simple version. And then just to add a little bit of character to this and make sure it's syncopated, just have to jump out of here. If you hit J on the keyboard or click up here to snap the grid off, we can just make these shorter. Let's put that grid back on, and that will give us a bit more syncopation. Keeping the focus up on the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this across like so. I'm just hitting quantize for each one because it's these notes are shorter, so it's trying to butt them up. And we're going to use these as the reference notes over here. In fact, let's copy this over again because I prefer the shorter notes in this. That's going to be our reference section here, and I'm going to delete the bass from this, and we're going to make the melodic part of this. So in the piano, you can see here, we've got C, B, G, and A, and then we've got E, F, G, C, sorry, and then D, E as a roll. And what we can do here is we can grab this and this together, so the two tracks, so you can see the overlay of the piano above. And then all we have to do is copy that positioning. So that goes down to B, that goes down to G, and that goes to A. Let's just loop this. Then we can mimic that roll at the end, and you can see we've just made it really quickly. So that's just the top notes. We've got the bass to reference, so we can now follow this in the same way, adhering to the chord structure. So I'm going to drag these basses over to the first one. And you can see here now that we've got a little bit of movement. So this is a B. So this is the second note of the chord. So if we go back here, you can see that we've got C, B, G. So we jump to this chord here. So C, B, G, and then up to the F. And that gives us those notes. So there are middle notes that we're using for the melody. So the bass here is A, G, E, and F. A, G, E, F. Jumping back in, let's select all of these for now. So we can see those bass notes. Let's zoom right in so you can see. And I'm going to keep these first ones on A, obviously, because that's part of the first chord, but then it shifts here. So I am going to grab this and this, this and this. I'm going to shift them down to G. And that's perfect. They work nicely. And then for the final one, we're going to shift these down to E. And if you want to quickly check this, we're making the chord, so the bass is the root note E, miss a note in the scale, G. So we know that is the first of the chord, and that is the third of that chord. Beautiful. And then we can just drag and drop this in here. And you can see A is in the top, so it's got to be F in the bottom, because miss a note, add a note, that is our chord. And then we repeat the structure for the other side. So with that being an E at the top, that's our second note, so it's going to be a C, C, D, and then E. And then to A, because we've got A and C, and I'm just going to shift these ones down. So this sounds like it jumps a little bit too far. Let's just try it here. Yeah, because that seems to come in a bit too early and suggest that chord change a bit too early. No, it can work either way, so it's really up to you. And I do encourage you to sort of like jump out the bounds of this tutorial as well. We are working with a standard triad, so you could technically, in that first one, we've got an A, C, there is an E in there as well, so you could mess around with adding that in. And you know it's going to work, it's going to fit. You can jump octaves, there's all sorts. Be creative. I'm just showing you the bare bone essentials of this. Okay, so we've got that part now. What we can do is we can jump into the second half of this. So just to save the confusion, I am going to remove the bass notes out of this, like so. So it's just leaving that top melody in, like we had before. So you can see exactly the same as what we had in the previous part, but we're going to make some fundamental changes to this just to change its direction. And we're going to go more of a classic route. It's very reminiscent of a classic trance melody where we don't sort of go for the euphoric build at the end. We're going for the more subdued, withheld sort of end. And then you can obviously do that if you want to in that part. So we're going to rise that up to E, but we're going to actually use 3 notes to go up to the E there, and then down to the G and the A. And then this is where we make the change. We're going to jump to B. We're going to drop to G, and then drop this down to A. And we can change that roll up if we want, but I'm just going to put them all on A. So you can see how that's going to throw it back into the beginning. It's going to make the beginning sound more euphoric because we've withheld the end of that part. So we can put these bass notes back in now. So I'm going to drag these across. So starting here. So we've got C and we're on A. Absolutely fine. That's where we started. But this is now going to jump. So I'm going to grab this, this, and this. And because it's E, we know that the bass is going to be C. Again, reference your original chord structure if you need to. Let's just get rid of that note there. And then this one and this one, we can see it's G. So it's going to drop down to E. So it's jumping quite the way. I thought I could just hear something slightly off. Let's just grab these notes. We just need to move them back 1/16. That's working much better. And we're going to drag this across, so make sure it's 1/16 in. And you can see it's on A, and we know that means that the bass is in F. And then we can drag this across. It goes up to B, so we know that is a G. But it drops at this point again to G in our bass, in our melody. So we know that's going to be E again. So we're just repeating this one. And then finally, let's copy this one because it's already in its hole, back to F. So you can see how that's working. I'm just going to put that missing note in there from when we copied and pasted, and we've got our completed melody. So let's bring that back to here. And again, if you wanted to, don't forget you can use the piano to copy those parts. And you can see it does go up to C. It's entirely up to you, but I thought it sounded quite nice static. Let's just unmute that. Let's just throw these in for good measure. So there we have it. That is the completed melody for February. I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, let me know down in the comments. And if you want this MIDI and you don't want to copy it off screen, you can head over to Patreon and consider becoming a patron. Any of the paid tiers gets access or early access to the videos and the MIDI stems that come with this video. So thank you very much for watching. I've been Demis Hellen, and I will look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Take care.